In a list of the most controversial topics in America, abortion definitely ranks somewhere in the top 10, especially in light of Roe v. Wade being overturned this past June. A Supreme Court landmark decision that passed in 1973, Roe v. Wade mandated that a person has a right to an abortion up until the third trimester of pregnancy, when the fetus can survive outside the womb, except in situations where the pregnant person's life is in danger. States could not legally prohibit anyone from receiving an abortion before the third trimester under the 14th Amendment of the Constitution, specifically the section regarding a person's right to liberty, and, by extension, privacy. However, on June 24, 2022, the Roe v. Wade ruling was overturned in the case Dobbs v. Jackson Women's Health Organization. The decision by the Supreme Court was leaked in May and was divided along party lines, with the Republican majority, besides Justice Roberts, who didn't vote, all voting against the Roe v. Wade precedent. This has allowed individual state governments to pass legislature banning or limiting abortion. As of November 23, 2022, abortion bans have been passed in 14 states, varying from bans after 6 weeks of pregnancy to near total bans, and felony charges for those performing an abortion. The country as a whole remains deeply divided over the moral and legal aspects of abortion. For example, many of those who are anti-abortion, or pro-life, believe that having an abortion is essentially the same as killing a person, which is morally wrong. They also point to the death penalty laws, which state, quote, "A sentence of death shall not be carried out upon a woman while she is pregnant," unquote. This law implies that the nation sees it as unjust to punish an unborn child for a crime they did not commit. The fetus should, hypothetically, have all the same rights as any other person. People who support abortion and are pro-choice, on the other hand, believe that it is the pregnant person's decision, and that they should have the right to choose what to do with their bodies, especially considering the higher mortality risk childbirth introduces in comparison to modern abortion practices. According to the Supreme Court justices who voted in favor of upholding Roe v. Wade, the Supreme Court's new ruling means that, quote, "From the very moment of fertilization, a woman has no rights to speak of. A state can force her to bring a pregnancy to term even at the steepest personal and familial costs," unquote. Amid the controversy, the fact remains that the Roe v. Wade ruling has been overturned, so it seems that abortion bans won't be going away anytime soon. For now, the right to have an abortion is not a nationwide freedom. Proponents of abortion rights and the Roe v. Wade ruling have drawn connections between the choice to have an abortion and the ideals of feminism. In fact, feminists of both the past and present have argued for reproductive rights, such as the choice to have, or not have, a child. Let's take a look at the beginnings of American feminism and its relationship to abortion, all the way back in the 19th century. America's feminist movement didn't officially start until 1848, yet women in America rebelled against female norms long before then. A prominent example is the Grimke sisters, a pair that delivered speeches against slavery in the 1830s and received harsh criticism for them, not solely for the speech's controversial subject matter, but for the sisters' audacity to speak on political issues in public. This sister duo, in part, paved the way for the true beginning of the American feminist movement, the Women's Rights Convention, or the Seneca Falls Convention, of 1848. Now, this meeting ultimately launched the first wave of feminism. While the main goal of feminism at the time was to grant women the right to vote, the feminists of the time also pushed for equal rights in all aspects of life, including the right to, quote, "self-ownership or control over one's person," unquote, according to U.S. history expert Eric Foner. A women's rights meeting, taking place in Boston in 1859, demanded, quote, "freedom and equal rights in the family," unquote, namely, the rights to regulate their own sexual activity and procreation. Interestingly enough, that same year, the American Medical Association, or the AMA, released their report on criminal abortion, which criminalized all abortions except for those to save the mother's life. The main doctor behind the report was from Boston, so perhaps this report was a direct response to that 1859 Bostonian feminist meeting. Now, according to NPR, quote, "historians note that the anti-abortion argument was mostly used as a way to take away women's bodily autonomy," unquote. So this was at least partly backlash towards the new feminist movement. At any rate, the AMA continued their campaign against abortions from the 1860s to the 1880s, and abortion was made illegal in the majority of states up until the Roe v. Wade ruling. Now, various states have reinstituted the abortion bans from pre-Roe, some of which were created all the way back in the late 1800s. Evidently, abortion rights are a pressing issue today, especially in post-Roe America. And by remembering the origins of pro-choice thought and anti-abortion laws, we as Americans can more knowledgeably participate in this ongoing debate. That's all for now, and I'll see you in the next episode of History in the Headlines.